shortly.
Mike? Thank you.
Yeah.
And then Chair, you can go ahead and start.
Yeah, yes. Sorry, I didn't realize it's 2:04. Okay, so this meeting is called to order. Today is Thursday, May 28th, 2020. And the meeting starts at 2 o'clock, and I apologize for being a little bit late, and it'll end at 3 o'clock. So call to order and roll call. So members of the subcommittee meeting, Councilmember Dominguez, are you there?
Here.
Okay, and then I'm here, so the two of us are present. So let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And then on item 3, approval of agenda. So Councilmember Dominguez, if you can
Move to
make a
approve.
motion to approve the agenda.
Move to approve.
I second that, and I second the motion from Councilmember Dominguez to approve the agenda, and it has passed. Approval of minutes for the May 13th, 2020. Councilmember Dominguez, would you make a motion to approve it? And I second that. Okay, unanimous. Did you want to say something?
No. I was gonna
Okay,
move to
so
approve.
it's okay. I heard like an echo or something. So the minutes have been approved for May 13th, 2020. Thank you so much. So now it is time for public forum, and I will read our script that we have at every council meeting and subcommittee meeting. Those interested are invited to address the subcommittee on any subject not on the agenda via the meeting public comments form available, which is https://www.cimlpeters.california.gov/ed/public-comment/. The city clerk subcommittee chair or designee will read comments out loud at the meeting. And I believe it'll be, who will be reading those comments if there is anybody? Would that be you, Alex, or would that
Chair.
be the?
It would be Daniel Degu, our Economic Development Coordinator. He should be on the line. Daniel, do we
Okay.
have public comments?
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes,
Hi.
good afternoon. There is one public comment.
Okay.
If you would like, I can read that.
Okay, let me finish this and then you can read that. So Daniel will read the public comments, and as an item not listed on the agenda, no response is required of the subcommittee or staff. However, subcommittee members may request staff to add the item to a future agenda. This public meeting will be led with professionalism, respect, and civility. So profanity and other vulgar language will not be tolerated. Okay, so Daniel, do you have a public comment? Can we hear it?
Yes, Chair. So the comment was submitted today, May 28th at 1:23 p.m. It's from Indrajit Mundra, and the comment is as follows. Question 1, how many small businesses have you contacted to establish what their needs for funding look like? Question 2, of all the businesses that will be helped, how many or what percentage will survive the next 6 months? Question 3, what is the cost of this program to the city, and what are the calculated returns to the city? And question 4, when will we have access to the video of the last meeting? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Inderjet. I will defer that to our staff, Alex Andrade, who will reach out to you and give you those answers as best as he can. Because I think we also want to make sure that we're not reaching out, but that we're being responsive to some of these, the business community. Okay, now
Chair.
moving.
Chair.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
You have the floor.
Thank you. Are you using the hand? I just want to know what's the best way if I have something to say, the hand or just.
Since we can't see you, I think and you're on just voice call, probably best to just
Just say
do a
hello.
shout out. Hey, hello, I'm here, or I have a question, just maybe I have a question or a comment.
Okay, perfect. I just don't
All
want
right,
to
I think that's,
sound rude. No problem. Okay. I just
Okay.
wanted to,
and by the way, the person that's gonna be facilitating that is it Alex? You're gonna be facilitating that?
Facilitating
When someone wants to speak, is it you or do
under
you-
public comment or for staff speaking?
Alex, I think Chair's referring to if the hands go up, like let's say somebody here of the
Yeah, right.
participants, then a hand would go up and you could just let the chair know that a hand's up.
I can do that.
But-
Yes, I
but-
do. See that Councilmember Dominguez has her hand up now. So yes, I can help in that.
Oh, can you see her hand?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay, well then that's fine. Yeah, okay,
That's
so
wrong.
you're the one that's gonna be doing that. Okay, that's what I
Yeah.
meant by the facilitating.
okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Chair. I just
You're
wanted to reply back. Personally, I have contacted over 170 businesses. So I just want to make sure that the record reflects that in order to answer his question, at least from my end, and then I'll go ahead and defer the rest of the questions over to Alex for him to get back to him for. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councilmember. Okay, on item number,
Sorry, Chair, there's a second public comment that just came in 2 minutes ago. If
Okay.
you want me to read that, I can do that for you.
sure.
Okay. So this public comment was submitted 2:08 today, May 28th. It's from Victor San Vicente, address 2002 Stratford Drive. This is pertaining to agenda item number 1, development of a small business loan program. The comment reads as, I would like to assist small business get help to restart after COVID-19 shelter in place. Please email me at victorgsanvicente@yahoo.com or call me at my cell at 408-718-8218. With much gratitude, Victor G. San Vicente.
So thank you very much, Mr. San Vicente. It's great to have your civic duty to try to help your business community here in Milpitas. I appreciate that. And then I think one of our staff members can reach out to you when the time comes for us to start doing the real work. Right now, we're in the initial phase of approving who is going to be the fiscal agent and so forth. So we'll keep you in mind. Thank you so much, Mr. San Vicente. So moving on to business items. Number 1, development of a small business loan program. So staff, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alex Andrade, Economic Development Director for the City of Milpitas. I'll start by just mentioning, Councilmember Dominguez, you have your hand up. So is this a remnant of?
So sorry, let me put it down. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Just wanted to make sure that we checked in. Mike, can you please put there it is. The presentation is there. So next slide, please, Steve, Mike. So subcommittee, I'd like to start the presentation where we left off at our last meeting, which was on May 13th. We discussed the development of a small business loan program. I presented 3 different small business loan program models that included Silicon Valley Community Foundation and Opportunity Fund, Los Altos Community Foundation and Main Street Launch, and Enterprise Foundation and Kiva. The subcommittee reached consensus on various aspects of what is a small business loan program proposal. And we discussed funding at $200,000 in terms of consensus. The immediate assistance is the number 1 priority. So speed to get dollars out to our business community is important. Offering loans at $10,000, utilizing a lottery to select loan recipients, and utilizing a revolving loan system. So that was discussed the last time, and ultimately the result was that the subcommittee voted 2-0 to proceed with Silicon Valley Community Foundation and Opportunity Fund We are here though today. I also wanted to mention that Councilmember or Chair Montano gave information on the former Parks and Rec Community Foundation and the Economic Development Corporation and how they can solicit donations and sponsorships. And then there was a proposal that was made to recommend to City Council the use of one of these mechanisms to fund philanthropic priorities, and to further recommend to City Council that they apply $50,000 as seed funding. Councilmember Dominguez proposed the city staff look at an outdoor dining program to assist local restaurants. This is actually a good segue into today's discussion because we will have a presentation by Ned Thomas, our planning director. But today's meeting agenda has to do with presentations related to a small business loan program, or perhaps even a grant program. So we are going to be hearing from Dennis King, representing the Enterprise Foundation, and from Kiva, we will have Sarah Adil from their strategic partnerships team. We will also have Mike Torrez, who you've met previously with the Opportunity Fund. The presentations will both be regarding the development of a small business loan program, as I mentioned, or perhaps a grant program. We will discuss both the small business loan and or grant program first, and then it'll be followed by our planning director, Ned Thomas, providing you an overview of the Milpitas Outdoor Dining Initiative. Next slide, Mike. So before we get into the presentations, I wanted to provide you an overview of the potential budget sources for the proposed loan and or grant program. The first two are general fund budget sources. They're not new. We have presented this to the subcommittee in the past. Just keep in mind that these are just two general fund budget sources. Of course, council could always discuss other options. So the first one that we've mentioned in the past, and I'll admit it was very high level, but the information is the same. It could come from the funding source of the city council through various components, such as vacancy savings through temporary salaries, benefits costs, and travel and training. The other potential option is funding coming out of the Office of Economic Development that would include funding from a facade improvement grant program, which is a general fund allocation of $50,000, as well as Better Block, which would require the termination of a contract because we are currently in contract with Better Block for the work that we were doing on Main Street. So we've already expended roughly $10,000 of that contract, but funding could come out of Better Block. And then the last one, we could take funding out of vacancy savings. So that's just a couple of general fund options. There, as I mentioned, could be others. The other one that I think is going to be a significant part of today's conversation has to do with Cdbg CARES Act allocation. And this comes with an important message to be mindful that there are challenges and concerns in utilizing Cdbg funds for this effort. We understand that taking funds from Cdbg is attractive because it will not affect the general fund, but there are some unknowns on such things as reporting, compliance, auditing through HUD. So just know that we're still gathering information as to when the Cdbg funds may be dispersed to needy businesses. So a timeline is still something that's unknown, although we are continuing to research this. Also, because of the challenges I just mentioned, there might be one fiscal agent that may find it challenging to proceed with this effort. You know, the subcommittee and ultimately council will decide on how to proceed with the Cdbg funds. I don't want you to take this as being dissuaded from utilizing Cdbg funds, but we just wanted to make sure that you understand that there might be some work and some possible challenges that lie ahead in going that route. So with that, I'm going to introduce Sharon Goey, our Director of Building.
Okay. Alex, before you move on, I had a couple of questions on item number 1. Can you hear me?
Sure.
Okay. So
yes, I can.
Okay. So the question on general fund budgetary savings, as you said, city council vacancy savings That's temporary salaries. And then you have on bullet number 2, vacancy savings. So I'm confused about the 2 vacancy savings.
I can certainly speak.
Is that staff that we haven't hired?
I can speak to the Office of Economic Development. Yes, that is right now an economic development specialist that we have not hired. However, I am pleased to say that last Monday, week from this past Monday, we held our first interview for the economic development specialist. So we're hoping to have a second round of interviews soon for that. In respect to the vacancy savings under City Council, I would look to either Steve or perhaps our city manager or our finance director, Walter Rossman, if he happens to be on, to give further explanation on that.
I don't see Walter on, so as I recall, the council had discussed, was it for this item though now? I'm not even sure.
So I'm assuming it's for vacant positions, staff positions, right?
Alex, would
Vacancy
you
is
like
for-
me to
yes.
address?
Yes,
Oh,
if that's
yeah.
okay, our assistant city manager, Shwini Kantak, will answer that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair Montano, for the question. So that is actually the temporary salaries are related to the money that was set aside for council interns, and not all of those positions were filled. So for this year, there are savings related to that. So that's what that refers to
Okay. So
under the
staff.
city council budget. Yes.
Okay. All right. You can move forward.
Thank you, Chair, for that question, and thank you, Assistant City Manager Kantak, for answering that. So as I was just saying, we're going to introduce Sharon Goey, our Director of Building Safety and Housing. She'll give you more information on specific considerations under CDBG, as well as just more details on eligibility and reporting requirements. With that,
Alex, if I could just, could I just point out something quickly before Sharon presents?
please.
Yeah, just for Brown Act purposes, and I know the agenda is broad and that we can discuss this matter, but my understanding is to the extent that CDBG funding has been discussed with other subcommittees, we may just want to be mindful of that and to be aware that, you know, this would be something that would be shared with the entire council. But I think to have a presentation and sort of the outline of this would be fine.
But what? But
oh,
no
sorry.
question.
But to engage, no, we can engage in questions, but to the extent that it's a full discussion, you know, with directions and things like that, I think that would be better suited to be shared with the entire council.
Can you repeat that again? You said full discussion with. Can you repeat that
Sorry.
again, please?
Yeah, no, I was just saying to the extent that the committee would consider any sort of direction, I think that would be better to be shared with the entire council. I think a presentation on the CDBG options would be relevant to this agenda. Yes. Yeah.
So I'm seeing this as just information only, and then when it comes before city council, then they would have a deliberation. Is that what you're saying? We can ask questions,
Correct.
but we can't
Yes.
make any
Of course.
direction.
Yeah, of course you can ask questions. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Moving forward.
Sharon, are you on?
Sharon?
Sorry, I'm just trying to unmute myself. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
I'm here. Hi, how is everyone today?
You're not Sharon?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Sarah. We're asking for Sharon to provide her presentation. Sorry about
sorry. I thought you were asking me. So sorry. I'll
Sharon.
go back to.
No worries. Sharon, are you on?
Call her up, somebody.
Oh, Sharon needs to be unmuted. Mike or Rochelle, if you can help in that respect, and then get on to the next slide, please, for Sharon. So just give us a second, subcommittee.
Okay.
Okay. Hello?
Hi. Sharon.
Hi. Okay, now you can hear me. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome.
All right. Yes, so as Alex had introduced,
this is about the CDBG coronavirus funding. So on April 2nd, HUD announced the supplemental CDBG allocation as part of the Federal CARES Act. And we learned that Milpitas was allocated $397,911. And the purpose for this supplemental CDBG allocation is to prevent, prepare for, and respond to the COVID-19 crisis. And HUD have provided some examples of eligible activities. And actually, many of the jurisdictions in our region, in our area, are using it for the list of activities you see on the slide. For housing relief, that could include rent relief, utility assistance and mortgage assistance. For shelter operations, small business relief is one of the eligible uses. And of course, kind of typical for CDBG, assisting seniors, the disabled, domestic violence victims, and mental health support services, assistance, legal services, and fair housing. These are all eligible activities under this CDBG coronavirus funding. So some of the considerations under the HUD guidelines for CDBG, the funding can be used for either as loans or grants. And for the city to work with a nonprofit partner to help manage the small business assistance program, this partner will have to be a 501c3 organization, and has to be a community-based agency that serves low and moderate income residents. And the activity would need to meet one of the national objectives, and that would be benefiting low and moderate income persons. And CDBG has record keeping and performance reporting requirements. Because HUD wants to make sure there's no duplication of benefits, they also would like the cities to establish performance metrics, performance objectives, and to make sure that in our reporting, you can really demonstrate how you're meeting that performance metric. And also you have to demonstrate you're meeting the national objective, as I mentioned, benefiting low and moderate income persons. You'll see a little bit more information on the next slide. And HUD conducts auditing as well. So all this record keeping needs to be really organized and well kept.
So can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So this is supplementary. Yeah. You still have to do, you and your staff still have to do the regular one, right? That we do it annually?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how, do you feel that, you mentioned about staff, there has to be more staff time in certain words, because you have to do a lot of red tape. So do you feel that, well, maybe I won't ask now. I'll wait till you finish your presentation.
Okay, thank you.
You can go on.
Okay, so the last bullet regarding the timeline for funding and reimbursement. So at this point, we would need to identify a nonprofit partner that will be working with the city and helping us manage this small business assistance program. And then the nonprofit partner would be the one that's applying to the city as a CDBG applicant. And if they get allocated, they will become a CDBG subrecipient, or sometimes called subgrantee. So we would be working with this nonprofit organization to identify the performance objectives and how they're meeting the national objectives, and outline all of this in their CDBG application. And after that, along with the kind of regular CDBG funding that you mentioned earlier, we will bring all of this to the CDBG subcommittee, and based on the feedback, we'll prepare the allocation, the annual action plan, and prepare substantial amendments to the consolidated plan and citizen participation plan. And after that, we will take that to council. And after that, we'll finalize all of those documents I mentioned and submit those to HOT. At the
Wow,
same
there's
time, we'll be
A lot of steps
working
there.
on.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and then after that, we'll be working on the contract between the city and each of our nonprofit partners. And in this case, it will be the nonprofit partner that's going to help us manage the small business assistance program. And once that is executed, this nonprofit partner, they can start reviewing the request for assistance and then start dispersing the funds. Now, because CDBG works via a reimbursement method, this nonprofit will be actually using their funds first to disperse the assistance to the requesters. And the nonprofits, they submit quarterly reports to the city to get reimbursed. So typically, the nonprofits, they will submit the first quarterly report sometime in October, and then they get reimbursed in November from the city for what they submitted on that first quarterly report. So the estimate for the funding, it'll probably be a bit challenging because of some of the research you still need to conduct, especially regarding the small business assistance aspect. But if we were able to take all of those documents I mentioned earlier to council by June, then the estimate would be the nonprofits may be able to start reviewing the request for assistance and disperse the funds in July. But this will be using their own funds. And then when they submit for the quarterly reports in October, they will get reimbursed in November.
Okay, wow.
Okay.
It's a lot of steps and a lot of red tape. That's the bummer of it. So, yeah. I'll move on. Go ahead. Let's make some comments.
Okay, we can go to the next slide. All right. Yes, I mentioned on the last one that as CDBG funding, it can become grants or loans to assist the business, but it will be this nonprofit partner that we work with that's going to be giving out the assistance.
So let me ask you a quick question. It mentioned in there about rent relief or housing relief or something. Since this is the small business subcommittee, we have a housing subcommittee. Can you do a dual? I mean, because it serves the same population, or you can only go one track.
Well, actually, no. Some cities are dividing up the money between rent relief or small business or other eligible activities. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And the contractors that we have right now that are doing the fiscal management are, who was it? Independent Living. So they would be the fiscal agent, the manager. And they would have to put in their money first and then get reimbursed. And
for
then,
the rent relief.
Yeah, for the rent relief. And then are they willing to do that too? That's another question, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, moving on.
Yeah. Okay. So on this slide, the second bullet point, that's an example from HUD of eligible activities using this CDBG coronavirus funding to avoid job loss caused by business closures because of COVID-19 by providing short-term working capital assistance to small business to enable retention of jobs held by low and moderate income persons. And then the third bullet that was one of the national objectives that I mentioned, that an eligible activity, it must meet that to remain under CDBG. So for low and moderate income job creation or retention activities, this 51% minimum needs to be met. For basically 51% of the jobs created or retained have to be for low or moderate income persons.
So let me ask you something else. Low to moderate income. With this COVID-19, it is affecting everybody in the economic spectrum. Middle class especially are being hit hard. They are not low income. So I'm perplexed why it's limiting to low to moderate income when and then what is moderate income? Is it? I don't think it's the middle class, and they're the ones that have been hit the hardest. And many are surviving by using their credit cards to pay their bills. So it's honing in on just low to moderate income. It's not for everybody really. So right? I mean, that's the way I'm looking at it.
Yes, and these are the guidelines under the regular CDBG, which is what HUD is still referring to as the guidance.
So that means that we're really restricted on who we can serve with this eligibility and reporting requirements. So I'm just thinking, as I'm coming along, just putting some rationale into this. But okay, moving on. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but I gotta have these answers while we're going through this. But I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think the questions are timely too. As we talk about each bullet, we can answer the questions.
Okay, great.
And then the next two kind of go together. This is the kind of records that will be required to demonstrate how it's meeting the objectives. So for example, to use this for the low and moderate income job creation and retention, a written requirement with the business will be required to show how they're hiring and retaining low and moderate income persons. So it will have to have a list of job titles and the actions by the business to ensure that at least 51% of the hires or retainees are low and moderate income persons. And another example would be when they're filling their jobs. They will have to provide a listing of the job titles, which jobs were available to low and moderate income persons, as well as a description of how the first consideration was given to such persons for those jobs. The hiring process needs to be described, and the names of all the persons interviewed for a particular job has to be all included in their documentation. So that kind of wraps up just those last two bullet points together. Basically, there's a lot of record keeping that's going to be required.
You ain't kidding. Councilmember Dominguez, if you want to chime in, raise your hand, and or if you have something to say, feel free to chime in or raise your hand. Councilmember Dominguez.
So sorry, I'm back on video, so hopefully it makes everybody's life a little bit easier.
Okay.
Thank you. Transitioning from work to here, but I want to wait until the end of the presentation. I do have some questions, but I'll go ahead and wait till the end. I'm not too sure.
Okay.
Is this the end? No,
Okay,
right?
sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
It is the end for our staff presentation. What's coming up next is presentation from
So
Dennis.
maybe we should do the presentations so before we run out of time, and then
Absolutely. I'm
then
good with that.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you'll ask them questions in regards to their experience in CDBG funding and process as well. So with
So
that,
thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Sharon, for a great presentation and clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
so Mike, okay. There it is. We're introducing Dennis King of the Enterprise Foundation and Sarah Adil, who is with him, who is coming from Kiva. So with that, Dennis, if you can hear us, please take
Yes,
it
I
over.
can. And likewise, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Good, thank you. Let me just kind of roll through these as I'm noticing your time. So the Enterprise Foundation was created in 2007 by the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Silicon Valley, and was recognized by IRS in 2009. And from that program, we launched our small business training sessions. Back then, mostly in Spanish, but we've added other languages since. It has grown over the years, and we've been honored to be able to be the very first Chamber of Commerce through our Enterprise Foundation to be a host of a small business development center. And that was the nation's first SBDC Hispanic satellite. We managed that for about 2 years. We exceeded all expectations and our performance throughout the state of California. So they also gave us the right to manage and host the SBDC Silicon Valley, which we've been doing since 2013. 2 years ago, year and a half ago, we launched the nation's first Vietnamese American SBDC. And so those programs together allow us to serve between 500 and 800, mostly minority-owned, women-owned businesses all throughout Santa Clara County. We've been very enthused about a program that will become effective January 1, and that's for us to become a Kiva Hub. We've used Kiva a couple dozen times over the years, and we've found it to meet a lot of our needs, and we can talk more specifically about that. The part that's interesting is that Kiva is mostly famous for its programs internationally. Under Sarah, it's been tremendously successful in the United States. In fact, her territory has been expanded. So she doesn't just handle Santa Clara County. She now deals with her territory stretches from here to Florida, from all of the of the United States. But she lives here in San Jose, so we've been delighted to have access to her. Can I say next? Next slide, please. So Small Business Development Center is the largest federal program in the United States under the Small Business Administration. And we provide services until recently. We've been doing that through workshops and one-on-one advising. We've obviously had to be a lot more flexible these days with webinars and other ways in order to communicate, but we've still been very, very active. This requires a local funding partner. Our local funding partner is the County of Santa Clara. So today, officially, we are getting support from the County of Santa Clara, the state of California, and the federal government. We work in partnership with lots of local city programs and other organizations, including Business Owner Space, SCORE, and of course, a variety of the chambers of commerce. I've worked very closely with the Milpitas Chamber of Commerce for over 20 years, and that's another subject. But please, next. So the bottom line for us, we're about providing access and information to information resources to help people start and grow their businesses. All of our services on advising and training programs, all of them are free. Next. There's a button to push here. We do a lot of our programs are access to contracts. We help especially women-owned, minority-owned businesses get access to government contracts. We do a lot about access to customers because it's, businesses need capital, but they also need customers. And I think now more than ever, that's an appropriate part of what we've been doing. But our major thrust in the last several years is providing access to capital. And we do that through a number of different resources, both traditional and alternative. We deal with many banks and credit unions and alternative lenders. But the important part is that while we work with these various funding sources, we don't represent them. We don't depend on them. We represent our clients. So we look for what's the best deal that we can find for our clients. And we've been doing a lot of loan packaging. Just in Santa Clara County, as of a year ago, we've done over $125 million of loans and capital investments. And I'd like to think that the vast bulk of those are small businesses that probably wouldn't qualify or would have a very difficult time getting the funding on their own. In the last 2 months, we've worked with over 550, actually it's probably about 580 small businesses get access to the economic injury disaster loans and payroll protection programs. We've put on more than a dozen webinars, 2 of them in Milpitas. We've worked with the Assembly member Kenson Chu with one of his webinars. We'll be doing another one in a couple of weeks. Tomorrow, we'll be doing a webinar in partnership with Senator Wajkowski. So we've teamed up with a number of organizations to be able to provide information about loan packaging. So we know that we've reached thousands of people and have given them directions by way of webinar, but we've actually walked through over 550 small businesses getting them, and that includes a few dozen in Milpitas. The flip side, though, is that I'd say about half of the small businesses that we were dealing with in Milpitas did not qualify to get those loans. Next.
Can you tell me why they didn't qualify, Dennis?
Sometimes they were not prepared. They didn't have their finances in order. Typically, they were not citizens. They did not have Social Security numbers. And those were probably the 2 most basic reasons. So what we love about Kiva is that citizenship is not an issue. I've been arguing with our SBDC and SBA colleagues for some time. I don't know why the grants are restricted to those that have Social Security, because in our opinion, it should be from taxpayer to taxpayer. And there are many businesses in Milpitas that are owned by people that don't have Social Security numbers, but they pay their taxes. They're paying their share. So I thought as a matter of fairness, they should have access to those resources. But unfortunately, mine is a lonely voice. So we've had to find other ways to be able to provide service to them. So that's a whole conversation in itself.
Okay.
We have now more than 40 business advisors. You might recognize some of these folks. They are active in Milpitas and throughout the county. And there's collectively, they're very conversant in English, Spanish, Vietnamese, Mandarin, Portuguese, and other languages. Most of these folks own their own businesses. And so we're really enthused of their dedication and their commitment in terms of helping our small businesses throughout the region be successful. And they mostly do that one-on-one. Next. I should probably let Sarah talk as a thumbnail sketch about Kiva. We've worked with many different funding sources, but the fact that this has been tremendously flexible has been a major factor for us, that it doesn't require citizenship. You really look at the performance. It doesn't require credit reporting. Kiva, Sarah, did you want to give a quick thumbnail sketch? I just put in a couple slides. We can.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Dennis. So Kiva is the world's largest crowd lending platform. Anyone can give as little as $25 to someone in their neighborhood, and that's how they get funded. We have 1.8 active million with 1.8 million active lenders on the Kiva platform. 60% of people who come to Kiva have been rejected by other financial institutions. And most of them either have really low credit scores or no credit scores. Most of the businesses are minority and women-owned businesses and businesses owned by people of color. So far, we have already given out more than $1 billion to small businesses around the world. We are in 89 countries around the world, and I am with the Kiva US program, where we find partnerships with local governments, organizations, CDFIs, SBDCs, and help them manage our program and create a lenders as well as a borrowers community around that program. So, I think the reason that Kiva was created to bring financial democracy to the world, because there are enough people in the world to help people. Those who don't qualify for other loans can always come to Kiva and raise up to $50,000 with the help of the community. And we don't ask for collaterals, we don't ask for credit scores. we say we trust your character, and that's how people raise money on Kiva.
And you're based, are you based in San Francisco?
Yes, the headquarters is based in San Francisco. I am based in San Jose because I used to manage this region. We also have offices in New York, Chicago, Portland, different places.
Oh, okay. Are you done with your presentation? I'm going to ask.
No. A couple more things I wanted to add. I should also mention about Kiva is that they've changed their business model now. So as of last year, they don't have everybody go through their corporate office per se. They have created what's called hubs. And so they try to identify one resource locally that becomes essentially the hub. I mean, it becomes Kiva in a particular defined area. As of June 1st, that hub will be us, the Enterprise Foundation. So that allows us to be very engaged in the decision-making in terms of who is going to be able to participate in the Kiva process. The other factor that's really significantly different, that's based on individuals contributing support to other individuals. But there are programs that might be much more relevant to what you're considering, and that it's also possible to deal with a larger fund, whether it be corporate or cities, to be able to make a donation and make sure those donations get processed through the Kiva process. So that does not require the same amount of time that it takes in order to be able to have those small businesses get money. And that kind of gets to the next summary that I wanted to get to. So maybe if I can skip a couple of slides and we can skip over this one. And again, this talks about Kiva more, but this is the area. The thumbnail sketch for us is that I tried to respond specifically to the decision-making points that you're looking at. So we're talking about administrative fee of at 5%, that there's no interest rates for Kiva. It's interest-free. It can go up to 3 years. There's no penalty for paying it off early. Currently, because of COVID, the loans are up to $15,000. The wraparound services comes from us. And what that is that while it's very important for our small businesses to get money, they should have a pretty good idea what they're going to do with that money and manage that money. And what are they going to do to get customers and get their customers back? Well, that's where we step in for our Small Business Development Center to be able to provide the guidance to be able to maximize the best impact with those funding. It is probably the most flexible of lending sources. And I think Sarah spoke to that. The program that we talked about, should Milpitas use that as the vehicle to get in, it would take 3 to 5 business days. I think probably 1 to 3 is more like it for the small businesses once they've been selected to actually get funded. We are ready to begin. You have a number of decisions to make first before we could really tailor the program. And so that's a discussion that we could probably have hopefully in the next step, in the kinds of decisions that you need to make that will impact us in terms of how we put the program together. If we do this through the Kiva approach, can that be a revolving benefit? The answer is absolutely yes. Next statement. The bottom line is I was thinking about what's different than, say, some of the other things that you might have heard. The other thing that's really hard to talk about is really simple. It's about relationships. I'm not a stranger to Milpitas. Back in 1975, I worked for County Supervisor Dan McCorkadale. In 1975, he represented Milpitas. I was involved with Milpitas back in there for several years and got a chance to meet a lot of very important relationships that I've kept over the years. It's not an accident that I've been a member of the Milpitas Chamber of Commerce for over 20 years. It's not an accident that Milpitas Chamber as the one that joined us in the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce year after year, more than any other Chamber of Commerce in Silicon Valley, is the one that joins us to celebrate diversity. And so I have a lot of fondness for Milpitas, and I see working with you, my hope will be a natural extension of that. And I'm sure we can all share some Milpitas stories, but I'm as optimistic as our past has been. I'm looking for even a stronger future. The bottom line for us is that we're here for you. Thank you. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. So I have a question. For for myself, and I'm sure for Councilmember Dominguez and the rest of the council, speed is king. This is what we want to have these loans processed or grants processed right away. Oh, and that takes me back. Is it a loan? It's a loan, right? Not a grant. That's a loan.
It's a no interest loan with no fee.
Okay, so that's pretty good. So how do so Sarah, do you feel that you can get this out as soon as possible to the business community when you come?
Absolutely.
Because that's our main goal. We want this to go out right away. It's been a while, and everything takes. We all know it's a slow process, and we have so many hurdles that we have to go over. But that's what right now our main thing is. We want to get it out, these loans out right away. So
absolutely, and so because we are a technology platform, things move very fast. So people can finish their application within 1 day. We take 2 to 3 days to review the application, and then they go on fundraising. Most people these days, because of the Corona situation, we have seen them getting funded within 24 hours or maximum 2 to 3 days. The time period given for regular application to get fully funded is usually 30 days. And most, like 99% of people get funded within those 30 days on the platform.
Wait a minute. We don't want to be confusing. So what we're looking at in terms of having Milpitas provide the funds so that they don't have to go out to get crowdfunding.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask right now. Yeah,
that would speed up. That would accelerate the program tremendously.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. If we already have the money, then it's just a matter of who is sitting at the back end, who's pressing the button so that the money can move.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. Any other questions that come to mind, Councilmember Dominguez? If not, we'll move on to the next presentation. Thank you so much, Dennis and Sarah. Appreciate your willingness to come out and let the public see how we want to help our business community.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Have a good rest of the day. Bye.
You too. Thank you.
If I may, Chair, just want to quickly introduce Mike Torrez of Opportunity Fund. He's the CFO. You have met him in the past. He's going to give a brief presentation, and same thing, have an opportunity to ask questions directly.
All right. Thank you.
Mike, take it away. Thank you.
Thanks. Good afternoon, and good to see everyone again. Thanks for having me on. So, I think the committee's relatively familiar with the program, but I'll go ahead and run through kind of Opportunity Fund and what we're proposing here as well. So Opportunity Fund is a federally designated CDFI, Community Development and Financial Institution, which means we have a mission to serve underserved communities, right? And Opportunity Fund really does so through small business loans. That's our #1 priority. We are the nation's largest nonprofit small business microlender, and we're located right here in San Jose. So in addition to small business loans, we also offer technical assistance, small business policy and advocacy work, in Sacramento and nationally. And we also do a small amount of community real estate. As I mentioned, we're headquartered here in San Jose, and we've been in the community for quite a while. Our first loan to Milpitas-based business was in 2003. And again, speaking to our to the scope that the Opportunity Fund seeks to address, in our last fiscal year, which ended last June, we deployed over $117 million in loans to over 3,000 businesses, with over 75% of those in California. Of those loans, 86% of the clients were minority, 62% lower moderate income, and 32% women-owned businesses. Next slide, please. Going a little bit deeper on our history with Milpitas, as I mentioned, our first loan was in April of 2003. It was a $15,000 working capital loan for a computer repair business. And then most recently in December, this past December, was for a $12,700 working capital loan for a travel agency. Again, this really kind of speaks to the core of Opportunity Fund's business model, which are these very small loan sizes, right? Overall, we've made 50 loans to businesses in the city, averaging $23,000. And again, with actually higher impact statistics than we see on our overall portfolio. 96% of these clients were minority, 84% low and moderate income, and 34% women businesses. The terms that we're proposing for our relief loan product is 4.25% fixed rate product. It would have 3 months of nominal payments, we're projecting $50, followed by a 24 or 36-month term in which the loan fully amortizes. We're expecting $10,000 to $15,000 average loan size. And again, from the point of application to the point of fund disbursement is typically 3 to 5 days. On top of that, we offer wraparound technical assistance and servicing. I'll speak a little bit to the relief loan product overall, where we're at with it. We are kicking off testing this coming week as we model a similar type loan kind of in San Jose and in the state at large. And then we anticipate the following week, so about 10 days from now, really kicking off the program in earnest. So some of the benefits we feel to the city of Milpitas, again, Opportunity Fund has a local presence right here in San Jose. We would be happy to partner with you on a portal and a web application to make sure that applicants are meeting the city's guidelines. Payments revolve into new loans, so as borrowers repay, we can redeploy to new loans. And then really, I feel like the biggest one is this access to a larger pool of funding. $250,000, when that capital is deployed, it's going to be sitting there with no payments for a little while, right? So our ability to revolve it into new loans is not going to be immediate. However, we do have this larger pool of funding, right? We've raised over $1.5 million for similar relief loans, to support similar relief loans, which we think is going to translate into $6 to $10 million of relief loans. So in addition to the $250,000, to the $220,000 of loan capital that we would work with the city of Milpitas on, as additional applicants come in, we're able to put them through to the kind of the standard relief loan product, and we don't have to do a lottery or first come first serve or anything like that. We feel like that is going to be the amount of loan capital we need to cover us for 2 or 3 months while businesses kind of get back on their feet. Just to talk through the Opportunity Fund economics, because we feel like it's important for you all to understand what we're thinking about and how we price the program. 12% of the grant amount is expected to cover the cost of operating the program, right? Those costs include enrollment in the iBank loss guarantee program. So it helps insulate us, in the event that the borrowers are not able to pay us back. It covers 70 plus staff of small business, direct small business lending experience, right? So loan officers, underwriters, payment processing, technical assistants. That's not even counting the 125 folks on Opportunity Fund staff as a whole, which are providing, admin support and advocacy and all the other things that we offer. Again, the program is scalable throughout California. As we've been raising quite a bit of grant funding specifically for this iBank program and for these, 4.25 relief loans. I just wanted to throw in one last piece here, which are challenges with Cdbg, which I think you very well identified. Our last go around with Cdbg was kind of when I first started with Opportunity Fund about 6 years ago. It's no small lift. I think more than any other program or loan agreement or grant agreement that I've seen in my 6 years here. That one had the single most onerous set of requirements. We're going through a similar process, as I mentioned right now, with the city of San Jose, where we just reviewed a 60-page Cdbg grant agreement earlier today. And I think that the challenge of administering 2 of those programs would be fairly unappetizing, just to be completely honest. So wanted to give that color.
So are you going through the San Jose Cdbg program right now with San Jose?
We're kind of going through grant negotiations right now. It's for a similar type product, right? For these type ones. And
are you still charging the 5-4? There's a certain percentage to do the work.
Yep.
Or are you charging more because it's more onerous?
Good idea. we charge the same 12%. Again, that 12% really is covering the enrollment fee, kind of the direct lending costs. We are using other sources of contributed revenue, some of the interest income to expected to cover some of the administrative costs of the program.
Okay. On the second of economics, the second bullet, you said 95% of losses are covered by iBank. And then you have parentheses, $500 enrollment fee. What does that mean?
So let's take a $15,000 loan. To enroll that loan in the program, it costs $250 plus 2.5% of the loan amount. So on average, that works out to about $500 per loan to enroll the loan. The benefit, the why we do that is because in the event of a loss, let's say that $15,000 loan, maybe the borrower makes some payments down to $10,000. In the event of a loss, in the event that the borrower is unable to repay us, we can claim the rest of the amount from this iBank program. We can get $9,500 rather than a total loss of $10,000, right? So it's in a time when we're anticipating potentially 20, 25, who knows what the loss rate is, but it's certainly higher than the 5%, approximate 5% of the enrollment fee. So we think it's a pretty good deal to protect capital. And really what we're doing when we're protecting capital is we're able to revolve it again, right? If a borrower can't pay us back, then we're able to recover it through iBank and then re-lend it to a new borrower.
It's like an insurance, if you will.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Actually, that's pretty good. Let me see what else I had. Another question. So you mentioned that all the applications are through a portal. So it's all online, I'm assuming, right?
We're kind of figuring out the exact strategy that we want to do for the relief loan. Right now, most of our micro lending is actually what we call boots on the ground. We have local loan officers in communities that would 3 months ago, they would go out to flea markets, they would go to local malls, they would develop a network of contacts and face-to-face, right? We're definitely rethinking what that model looks like these days, right? For the city of San Jose, we're going to work with them to help develop a portal. For Milpitas, we're offering to help develop a portal. I think that makes the most sense for right now. And it's a way to, we can give you a link, we can co-brand with you. You can say, apply for an opportunity fund loan. Here's the link supported by the city of Milpitas, and it'll go kind of directly to the custom city of Milpitas application.
And how fast can you get that going? Because that's really the bottom line. It's just we want to make sure it goes out quick.
Yeah,
to help the businesses.
Absolutely. The application, the web application is not particularly challenging. We should be able to get that up within a week. So once we kind of agree on the requirements and agree on the self-attestation parts of it, and like I mentioned, we anticipate making our first of these relief loans probably in about 10 days, and then from there, we think that like you said, on a rolling basis until the funds run out, we'll be able to close in 3 to 5 days.
Okay, and you mentioned something about June 1st. You'll get the ball rolling, or so you'll get the machine going.
Just notice that we're going to go through testing. We're going to kick off testing. It's a new loan product for us, right? So we need to get it, set up in our loan tracking system and test enrolling a loan with this iBank program, and then kind of doing the full rollout, making this available to anyone who comes to Opportunity Fund. I didn't qualify for PVP or or whatever reason, and I really do need capital to start my business. We think that we can offer that to businesses throughout California starting next Monday.
And one last question: what happens if that business does not qualify? Is there like a secondary route, or that's just that's just it?
That's an interesting question. Part of it is, when we first spoke, the city of Milpitas, I would say, had more stringent lending requirements than Opportunity Fund typically would, even for this relief loan product. So to what degree they move from one pool to the other is kind of an interesting question. We do offer, for every client that applies through Opportunity Fund, they will talk on the phone with someone at some point. for every single person who applies, right?
Mhm.
And if it doesn't work out, if they're unable to find something, again, we have a lot of experience and a lot of local depth to try and set them up with something that is more maybe more appropriate. Again, we're very cautious. We're extremely cautious of online lenders, predatory lenders. So very thoughtful there. We try our best to work with our clients. So it was one of the best pieces of feedback that we got when we started doing our own PPP loans, was that clients couldn't get their bank to call them back, but Opportunity Fund did, right? We guided our clients through this process where we made a $360 loan. It was the smallest loan I've ever seen in Opportunity Fund history. But we did it because the client needed it.
Okay, thank you so much. What I do like about yours is that the 95% of losses covered by iBank, that's that insurance. I mean, but that's probably why you have to go through the application process to make sure that folks can repay it back. And then the other one also has some pros to it too. Actually, I need to ask the other. Well, I guess I can ask the other one if they have something like this. So anyway, if that's is there anything else you'd like to say, Councilmember Dominguez?
Not at this time. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Chair Montano, if I may.
Okay, go ahead.
There is a public comment that has come in for this particular agenda item. So when you're ready to hear the public comment, let us know, and Daniel Degu, our Economic Development Coordinator, will verbalize the public comment.
Okay, so also just to wrap up the second presentation, thank you, Mr. Torrez, for your presentation, Mike, and then we'll see when we take it to the council, the full council, what they will decide.
Great.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that information. Have a good day. Thank you.
Wow.
Okay, Daniel, if you can let the other public comment. Let him through the gate, if you will.
Thank you, Chair. I'll go ahead and read this comment. It was submitted 257 relating to this particular item. The individual goes by the name of Yurvish Kumar Mehta, PO Box 362116. The comment reads as follows. To Milpitas City Council and subcommittee members, I would like Milpitas City Council members to consider PPP program and EIDL grant program for small businesses. The loan entitlement criteria should be defined as per the Small Business Administration, and then provides the link to the SBA website for coronavirus relief options. Thanks.
Actually, we've been having webinars on that, the process, how to apply for the Small Business Development Corporation loans. From my understanding, that's ongoing. So not sure what she's asking us. Can you give me some clarification on that, if Alex or Daniel, what exactly they are recommending or asking for?
Yeah, it's a good question, Chair. It's rather difficult to understand based on the email. We could follow up with the individual.
Yeah, if you could that'd be good. If you can follow up on offline.
Okay.
That would get for more clarification. Any other ones?
There are no other ones in the inbox.
Okay. All right, and it is on. What time is it right now? I want to be mindful of the time. I don't see. Oh, it's already past time. Okay. So there you have it, folks. These are the two competing fiscal agents that will manage and do all the legwork for our small business community, for those that apply. And we will find out on June 2nd who will be the, which one. We will make a recommendation, or actually not sure if we should. They're both really, they both have some good points. So can we as a council defer this to have the whole council debate and discuss, so we can make that, they can make the decision, we can all make a decision, or should we make a decision, a referral, not a decision, but a referral recommendation to them? I mean, are we supposed to make a recommendation, or should we just let them decide? Oh, but then again, they have to see the presentation. And can you give me some thoughts, staff?
Yes, thank you, Chair Montano. You're absolutely right that there will be a recommendation going to the City Council on June 2nd. We, from a staff perspective, and I think the community, as well as business owners that are interested in some funding, would appreciate direction. And so if you make a recommendation today, we will be able to put this in a public document as an agenda report that goes out to the community, and then will be considered in front of council on Tuesday night, June 2nd. So yes, we would like to have a recommendation.
Okay.
And I do see that Councilmember Dominguez has her hand up, and so
Okay.
we'll go there. But yes, please think about
Okay.
doing a
Yeah,
motion.
we will do that. We will make a recommendation. I was just thinking, you know, if we could just, but yeah, we need to make a recommendation. That's just that they both have some good points and valid, they make some good points, and it's just a matter of deciding which one. Can I ask, is Dennis still online? Dennis King? Wanted to ask one last question about, do they have, Dennis, are you there?
I'm
Or
here.
maybe
Yes, I am here.
for Kiva, do they have, let's say that they have a loan application, and then for some reason they can't pay it back. What's the process then? Do they have that insurance like Opportunity Fund does? What happens?
Well, I've not run across that, so I don't really know.
Oh, is Sarah there? Or she left already?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think she left.
All right, then.
What we haven't really mentioned is that while they're doing something sometime soon for San Jose, we're already doing a program, for example, with the city of Sunnyvale, and we're working with a couple other cities as well. So we're already learning a lot about this process. So the concept of establishing a portal, that's exactly what we did for Sunnyvale. So
okay. So when is Sunnyvale going to start getting their actually making that contact with the business community?
When is Sunnyvale going to do it?
Yeah.
Well, they announced the opening yesterday. It opened at 1 o'clock in the afternoon yesterday. By 1:40, they had over 160 applications. By the end of the afternoon, they had over 300 applications. I haven't checked today. My phone call after this is to keep on top of that. They'll be continued to open until next Tuesday. So,
yeah. So it's already out there. It's out
already,
in the,
it's moving.
out in the,
It's
yeah.
definitely
Okay.
moving. Yeah.
And if we go with you, you say it takes 3 to 4 days, or that's what Sarah said.
Well, you still have some decisions to make.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It'll probably be a week or 2 weeks. Okay. Thank you so much.
Chair Montano, if I just can remind you that Councilmember Dominguez has her hand up and would like to.
Okay. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
She might be muted.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and lower this hand before I forget. First and foremost, thank you to everybody, and thank you staff, and thank you to those who have joined us to present. I have honestly been taking lots of notes, and between the notes from the meetings that I've compiled with the small businesses, with the different kind of chambers in our region, including the Milpitas Chamber, and also listening not only to this meeting. I'll be honest, my daughter is on another meeting and she's giving me notes of feedback that's happening in that other meeting. There's a couple of things that I have questions on, because as we all know, CDBG funding, without going into a conversation, because I am on that subcommittee and I don't want to violate the Brown Act, but it does bring some opportunities. And so some of the questions that I have, staff, please guide me if I'm moving in a different direction, but I'm trying to overlap, because there's 3 questions that I think this subcommittee needs to answer. The first one is, right, what is it that we can do to make it better for small businesses? I do believe that when we started this idea and this conversation, we were in phase 1. So that was like week 1 to like week 5, I would say. We're now in phase 2 per the county order. And I do believe, from what I'm hearing from businesses, is that we're in a very different place than when we were starting this conversation. So things are changing by the day, it feels like. So I want to answer the question, what can we do better? I want to answer the question, how does the loan program maximize the tax dollar, and how does it maximize supporting small businesses in this phase 2? And the third question I want to answer is, how are we supporting businesses, because they are the lifeline of our Milpitas community, of our small businesses. So those are the 3 questions that are pondering through my head right now. And I have lots of questions, because when I spoke to the small businesses, and the feedback that we're all getting is, we could think a little bigger. It doesn't just have to be the loan program, right? We could think bigger, right? And we could actually incorporate it within the loan program, because I definitely want to be supportive of that idea. I think that's a great component. Businesses are asking for it, but they're also asking for a couple of other things. And so I just want to share that feedback with you, Chair, if I may.
Sure.
In the last couple of weeks, our office has really been having these conversations, and these are the conversations, the topics that keep coming. The first one is the loan program, giving small businesses the loan program that would help provide that relief, right, and the reduction of costs and eventually layoffs, because we want to make sure that we keep people working or bring them back to work, right? I think that's another thing that we could do. The second thing that they've been asking is, how do we stimulate the economy to supplement and preserve the small businesses in Milpitas by helping markets a campaign to shop local? I've been hearing that a lot. So it's the advertisement, it's the marketing. I know that our economic development team is doing that already, right? But they're stretched thin right now, right? There's only one Alex, unless there's more Alexes in that department. But
Well, there's a Daniel, and there's a Daniel there too.
There's a Daniel. So Daniel, I know you're coming, you're around too and helping, but I know Alex and Daniel, your team is, there's just so much you could do. So you've partnered with other people like the chamber and other third parties. So thank you so much for doing that. And then the third question that is coming up, or the third point, is workforce development and education. You know, right now our unemployment numbers are at 12.7%, and they're going to grow, right? They're going to grow. So it's, how do we provide that labor that has been dislocated with opportunities to come back and learn new skill sets? So I know also the economic development team is working hard with that.
Yeah.
But the reality is that they need money, right? They need funds. So some of the things that I have been receiving, there's 2 key words that every business member I have talked to says them to me at some point. One word is amplify. The other word is invest. How do we amplify and how do we invest to get the maximum return on these tax dollars that we're going to place back and stimulate back the economy in the small business world in Milpitas. That's kind of what I'm thinking right now. So with that, CDBG money is coming, right? So again, that could be council direction, but that is a lifeline of funding that could potentially help with the budget. I mean, with the budget to support the small business grant program. But I'm also thinking, how could we, part of this loan program, right? There could be different structures. It doesn't just have to be the loan program. It could be different things. And that's where we need to pump money into the economic development team or develop pumping money with our own chamber in Milpitas. So Chair, one of the things that I've been thinking about when we're talking about this loan program is I love, I'll be honest, both presenters have great models. And so we are moving from phase 1 to phase 2. And so I know, Dennis, you're in, your expertise is in marketing. Would you say that those 3 topics are probably something that comes up with your conversations with small businesses too, which is the, right?
Yes.
So it's how do we do both with a minimum funding right now? But I like to think big, right? I like to go big. Everyone knows me. I like to go big. So I want to support the loan program at 200 and I think we're at 200, right? A recommendation of 200. Because we go big. Let's say the council says,
wait. Yeah, actually 250, but I had made the recommendation of the 50K to put it into just put it on hold as a placeholder. But the 200K.
Right, yeah, so the 200 would go to like the third party that we select today, right, with that recommendation.
The recommendation.
Because we need to think big. And again, we need to present this to the team, right? It's not just up to us two. We're making that recommendation to pitch the idea, and hopefully they grab it and they support it.
And they run with it, yeah.
And they run with it, right? Exactly.
Correct.
But the reality is, I'm hearing what council is saying, so I want to be very open to that. And I'm hearing what businesses are saying. So Chair, my recommendation would be, why don't we recommend Plan A and Plan B? Because we've been meeting for 7 weeks. And what I would hate is that we bring all of this work to the council, and then the council, for whatever the reason, says, you know what, that's not what we want to run with because X, Y, and Z. So I want to give them choices. And I heard you say that in the beginning, right? It was like, oh, do we have to make a recommendation, or could we have a conversation with all 5? I do believe we have to make a recommendation.
Right.
But I do believe we could make maybe 2 recommendations, right? It could be maybe Plan A, which is the original thought with the 200,000 and 50,000 that goes into, I don't want to call it's foundation or that account. And then let's do a Plan B, so they consider other things. That way it's a win-win for everybody, because we've been spending so much time, right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. If we go with Plan B, I hear you. It's more trying to stimulate the economy, getting more ideas, marketing. I think right now we need to just focus on choosing a fiscal agent to give out the loan, and then in the same time we can be discussing about marketing. And I think they both, I know Janice said he does that, but I think that's a totally different ball game. I think Plan A right now, what you're saying is making sure we choose a fiscal agent so we can hurry up and get that money to the businesses that really, really need it. And
right, but what happens if we present 250,000 and the council says no?
Says no for what? They've already allocated. It's just a matter of choosing who will be the fiscal agent.
I think that's where there's a confusion, because city manager, could you please clarify? Because I was looking at again, I just want this to be a win-win for all of us, because we've spent 7 weeks. So just hear me out, Chair, for a second. I've been watching the film. Steve, could you clarify that last meeting? It went by super, super fast. And then I lost the last statement from the mayor. I'll be honest, I didn't even catch it until I just saw the film the other day. Has the money been allocated to the subcommittee?
You're on mute.
Yes, thank you. So the money itself has not been allocated or designated. You guys had a discussion about the dollars, but the exact action to allocate the dollar has not been decided.
Wait, I don't understand that what you're saying. It has been allocated, it just hasn't been given. It's
No.
been,
I'm
because
saying
we
that-
decided 200K, well, 250. So that, to me, that's an allocation.
I think that your recommendation today should have that dollar amount to it. So you have that confirmed with the council of what you're recommending.
So we could make it 300K? Is that what you're saying? No, but then what
You
was
could
the,
recommend
then what was
300K.
the discussion about then? Then why were we throwing some numbers out there if it wasn't, they had the whole console, I remember. We said 250K, because I even first in the beginning was 200K, and then I said, well, let's make it 250, and they say, yeah, well, that's, but it hasn't been given, but that was the number that they agreed to, and maybe it's a matter of semantics, because it was agreed that it was 250. So I'm not sure. So when you're agreeing to something, you're already agreeing to allocate those funds to the subcommittee, so that way, as we can decide who the fiscal agent will be. So maybe there's a matter of semantics here.
That sounds like a fair statement. That the council
Yes.
did have that discussion on the numbers. I'm just saying, to answer the question, the dollar amounts were not allocated.
Can you speak louder,
The-
Steve? I can't hear you. Speak louder.
He might be taking his ear pods.
No, I'm turning off the air conditioner. It's kind of loud.
I know, that's why.
What I'm saying is that, yes, you had that discussion, and so that's fair to say this should be better now that the air conditioner turned off. The dollar amount dollars itself were not allocated out of the budget for this purpose. So that would still need to come from the council.
Yeah, it's a mess. It's semantics. I mean, it hasn't been allocated in the budget, but it was discussed that was the number.
It was discussed.
That was the number.
Correct. I was just
So I want clarification
The
on this.
allocation will be on June 2nd.
So I want some clarification, because my understanding of, I get what you're saying, Chair, and it's not against you, trust me. I was watching that film, and that last sentence that was moved in when the mayor was saying his recommendations, it's not, so I guess, let me just ask it in plain English. Steve, is this a done deal? Like, do we have the 250,000 right now that we could play with to see how we want to distribute those funds?
No, I don't believe the council gave you the $250,000 to move the loan program forward. It did request you to go back and provide a loan program, and that's what we're doing today. And I would recommend, if you do have that dollar amount, that you put that in your recommendation to the council for Tuesday.
And so let me ask a second question. Can the council decline and move forward their own idea of this program? So
They
like,
can,
let's
because
say
you
they
have
say,
the-
okay,
you
we
have
won't
the
do
total council
250,
before you.
but we give you 100,000.
They could decide another number together. All of you, all 5 of you would make that decision. You're making a recommendation, so they asked you to go back and do the research. Everything you've done is exactly what they've asked.
Okay, perfect. So I just want to be very just clear on that, because I think that does, for me, I think we both at some point were under the impression that, the money has been allocated, but it didn't. It got moved to a task force. So now we have to come up with the recommendation and hope that they bless the recommendation and move forward. What I don't want to see is moving a recommendation forward and then it have no passing whatsoever, because all we concentrated on is just the loan program. You follow me, Chair? That's all we've been concentrating on is the loan program. So I want to add some oomph to that. So the 3 points that I would like to add with your kind consideration and blessing would be allocating, maybe, let's think big. Like you said, let's do 500. Let's think big. What is it that you like? Let's think it, because we're going to have to go and negotiate with the council, right? Like, hey, this is what we think. based on the feedback that I have received, again, it's all constituent feedback. They have asked me to consider and to bring forth to you, Chair, if you could please consider allocating $25,000 to economic development or the chamber, however you wish. I that they were like, I would like the chamber because they're already partnering with economic development. But if you want economic development to handle that money, I'm okay with that too.
Well, I don't think we can. It's not part of our charter. I mean, we can't allocate to the chamber. We're not allowed to. So take that off because
No, wait, hold on. So, but Steve, could you help me out? Could we allocate maybe $25,000 to economic development and then in that direction instruct them to work with the chamber?
But they're already working with the chamber. So
Steve.
So we need to cut this meeting short.
No, but we need to work. I'm not going to
decide who's going to be the fiscal agent. That's what the council mandated us to do. Choose the fiscal agent, and then we can have this discussion at city council when we choose that fiscal agent.
But it needs to be part of the recommendation. We can't just say it's up to everybody. It's up to everybody, but we have to recommend it. So what I would like to recommend is $25,000 for economic development. I would also like to recommend $50,000 to a Milpitas Plates program to jumpstart the economy and amplify our small businesses and our restaurants in order to provide fresh food to our seniors and anybody that qualifies under CDBG, so our vulnerable populations. And I would also like to, in this recommendation, ask staff to look at internal fees that we could subsidize for our small businesses. So again, it's just a recommendation, Chair. It's just a recommendation.
I understand. We haven't even gotten to the look what time it is, and we haven't even gotten to the outside restaurant facilities that was on the agenda. I'm going to respectfully decline this. This conversation can happen at the city council when you can put those ideas to the full council. But right now, our main focus is to decide which fiscal agent will do what they're supposed to be doing to get that money to the small businesses. That's our mantra right there. So we need to decide.
I actually think that the direction of the council was to help support small businesses. So we could think big. We don't just have to think about the loan program.
It's going to take longer than 7 weeks. I'm going to have to just say we have to decide which, and then during that discussion, during that time period, in the interim, we could be talking about your ideas with the full city council.
Steve, could I ask you a question? Sure. If those ideas don't get adopted in this subcommittee, could I go ahead and write a memo on my own and then bring it back towards the full council for recommendation at our next meeting during announcements?
That might be the better path, because what I wanted to remind
it is the better path
is because of the agenda item that's before you. It sounds to me like you're going outside of the agenda item, which really is where the chair was saying, kind of directing us back into the loan program question that's before you. So you can get that business taken care of. If you guys wanted to talk about the dollar amount or not, but at least get that program in front of the council for the second. So that's, I believe, your target for today, is to get that piece done. Then of course we have another agenda item after this.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and just do that. So those of you who are watching at home and asked me to bring it up, brought it up, we're going to move it in that direction. And so at this time, I'm okay with the 200,000 being allocated. Actually, I want to use that word. Well, it's the word, but I want to be mindful that, again, this is taxpayer money and we need to maximize it. So we'll go ahead and think big, Chair, and bring it forward to the council. So 200,000, and then we'll see what the council says with it. But I am respectfully going to be listening to community feedback once that item gets brought up.
Correct. now it's just a matter of which fiscal agent, and then I had recommended 250. I don't know if you recall, but 250. And I would like the 200 for the loan program, and then 50K for to put on a placeholder till we figure out what we're going to do about the Economic Development Corporation or a community foundation. So
I could support the 200,000. Again, we're thinking big, but I know that in philanthropy, you need a whole staff team to kick off a foundation. So that's a conversation I would want the council to talk about.
Yeah,
so
that's
I'm
why
not
it's
okay.
on the place.
Yeah, but I don't want to put it as part of this recommendation. So I'm okay with 200,000 towards the business model and seeing what the other four want to do with it.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, I just know that realistically,
we'll do 200K, and then I will bring up the 50K. Because the last time we spoke about it, if a whole council was okay with 250, and this is why I'm a little bit perplexed why it wasn't, but it's just a matter of semantics. So now that we've established 200K, which of those two agencies do you feel that the council will? They're both really good. So so which one do you recommend?
So I'm perplexed between, I really like the model of the first one. Dennis, I know your program is new. What's the turnaround? Did you say that you could make these loans?
Once you made you have to make some decisions about who you want to get the loans. So assuming we've got that and we've lined up your funding, we could do it, I would say at the very latest 3 to 5 days. It's most likely 1 to 3 days.
And then there's no fees or interest, right?
No interest rate. As loans, they do want it paid back. Currently, they're not asking for any payments for the next 5 months. They do want it paid back over the next 3 years. And if it gets paid off, or if Milpitas decides to make those forgivable loans, that could happen whenever you decide. But in terms of the mechanics of actually getting cash to businesses, 3 to 5 days is absolutely doable.
Okay, so I'm going to hold you to the 3 to 5 days.
Okay.
So I want, and then with that, if I just want to, yes, I think just work with our.
That's your recommendation. That's your recommendation.
Actually, I'm not done talking yet.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
So I definitely think that one of the things that my recommendation would be that to move with the organization. I know, Dennis, you've done some good work. But I would like to include in the direction, right? I remember, I think it was the mayor who just put a couple of things that he would like to see, right? Just for transparency and stuff, but we could just make sure that stuff is included, because I do want to take his recommendations into consideration in the direction that we're given. So if we could just include the direction, the request that the mayor was asking for some of those recommendations, I would greatly appreciate it. And
are you done now? Are you done?
Actually, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so moving to my recommendation, I like both of them. They both have good, have established their process. I do like the fact that with Opportunity Fund, if they can't pay it back, they have that insurance with iBank. With Kiva, what I do like is that those that do not qualify, especially minority business run, or businesses that are run by minorities or women, are able to get that help, that maybe a business that doesn't qualify is able to still get a loan. So I'm going to make the recommendation of Kiva because they help women and minorities and they have more flexibility. So So with that, council member and myself make the recommendation to have Kiva be the loan processor for the city's allocated $200K.
Chair, if I may, I have a couple of clarifying questions that it would be helpful for staff.
Go ahead.
We have talked about a small business loan program for many, many weeks. We have now most recently talked about perhaps it's a grant program. Can the subcommittee please help with which direction you'd like to go? Is this a loan program? Is it a grant program?
It's a loan program, a loan program.
Okay. And it would be helpful for the agenda report that we're drafting as to what you're thinking about in terms of funding source. Are we thinking CDBG type funding or general fund dollars? You don't have to make a decision in terms of course, the council will be considering that on Tuesday night, but it's important to add that information in.
Okay. I will give my recommendation of what source. I'm thinking general fund, and the reason why, after finding out all these steps, and I don't think that we have the staff or the manpower to do that, to do all that red tape. So I'm thinking general funds.
And I'm actually thinking CDBG. Again, I don't want to violate the Brown Act, but because I am on that CDBG subcommittee, I think that there is a way, again, the way that I think general funds is, Chair, respectfully, the way that I think of general funds is like having I don't know, like your checking account, right? So
Okay.
In a year, right now, we're moving forward. Hopefully we don't have to lay off staff, but every single time we touch that general fund money, that could mean that in the future, when we have to look at making tough decisions, that could be a staff member. And right now we do have the opportunity with this federal funding to make it part of CDBG. If it's 200,000 or whatever amount that the entire council moves forward with, I think CDBG would be the best way to move because it would be easy. It would the process would be mainstreamed. I think staff has the capacity of moving that forward from what I hear. And again, I don't want to ever think that we had the opportunity to save a full-time employee when we talk about budgets next year. So I would kindly ask for the recommendation to be from the CDBG funding.
Okay, so you have it there, Alex. 2 proposals or 2 recommendations, and then the full council ultimately will make that decision of where the funding will come from. Is there anything else?
Just to reiterate what I believe I've heard, it's the following: that the subcommittee will be recommending to City Council that the fiscal agent or sub-grantee be the team of Enterprise Foundation and Kiva. The other thing that I heard is that this is not a grant program, this is a loan program. And on the funding source, right now, you're absolutely right, council will ultimately make that decision. I will look to our city manager, McCarris, to see if there's anything else that we should get in terms of this motion from our subcommittee.
I think we have it perfectly clear. Thank you.
Yeah. And like I said, ultimately it depends on the full city council. Even, who they might not like, might not like our recommendation of Kiva. They might want the other one. So it's all up to the full council, but we've already put our 2 cents in, and then they can make the decision. So, and with that, we're going to have to cut this meeting short about the Milpitas outdoor dining, because I have a TPAC meeting at 4:00, which is 10 more minutes. So I'm going to have to end this meeting, and we'll just move it to the next subcommittee meeting. And now, Alex, do you make a recommendation for our next subcommittee meeting?
Well, Chair, with all due respect, I think we have enough time to go through the outdoor to include it into the June 2nd. I think the outdoor seating is critical for small businesses right now. They're asking for it. And so I would kindly ask if we could just maybe try to get through it to present it on council on June 2nd instead of wasting more time. Our small businesses are depending on this. And
If
so
you can
I
do
would,
it in 5 minutes, if you can do it in 5 minutes.
yes, let's go.
I
Thank
believe
you.
Go ahead, Alex,
we have
because it's already.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
We have our planning director ready to go, Ned Thomas. He and his planning team have been working tirelessly on this initiative, and we're excited to present that to you. So, Director Thomas, I think you may have been on mute.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hi, Dan.
To the committee, I've been listening in. Thank you for the discussion. I will go very quickly because I know your time is limited. Our first slide is, go to the first slide. The purpose or the reason that we're looking at this is that once the restaurants are allowed to reopen by the county health officer, then social distancing will likely still be in place, and that will limit the amount of indoor seating that restaurants can use. Some estimates of 25 to 50% of capacity. So that is obviously an enormous fiscal impact on the restaurants. So as a method or a way of providing relief to those restaurants and helping them not only recover, but simply survive when they reopen, the thought is to allow some of the seating that is removed from the indoor seating to become outdoor seating. And the next slide, please. Oh, I should mention that one of the reasons that that is helpful is that it helps protect the restaurant workers as well as the patrons in achieving the social distancing. So the next slide, sorry, I've got to get myself my notes here. So what does that look like? I just labeled this as framework. So the program would be temporary in nature. We're not looking at creating a permanent new outdoor seating opportunity for restaurants, but again, just to help them through the recovery stage. And what that looks like is that one way to do that is to extend the tables and the seating to sidewalks directly in front of the tenant space. As we look at restaurants in Milpitas, most of them are located in shopping centers. And so the sidewalks in front are private property, and many restaurants, even if you just look at a few around City Hall, Eric's Deli and Panda and Pete's Coffee, even Jamba Juice, they all have a few tables out front. So it would dramatically increase the number of tables that would be located out there. But some of the things that we have to consider when we do that is obviously the tenants would need to get permission from the property owner. We have to maintain a path of travel for pedestrians under the Americans with Disabilities Act. And we also have to ensure that any umbrellas or tables or chairs, they don't cause a hazard or obstruct either vehicles or pedestrians from traveling around. And we also need to ensure that we have adequate access for public safety, fire, and police. As I mentioned, we would still continue to maintain social distancing indoors, but we would also need to do that outdoors. So all of the tables and chairs would be need a 6-foot separation. And as we added that, we wouldn't be looking at adding a significant amount of new tables more than what the original occupancy of the indoor seating was. So next slide, please. So again, that's just a few of the limitations of the framework that we're working around. The next slide talks about some of the operational considerations that we need to look at. I won't go over all of these. Obviously, we even putting tables and chairs on the sidewalk, if we're maintaining a path of travel, most restaurants would want to have some type of a barrier, maybe bollards or landscapes or just taped off that so that they could control the space that they're using for outdoor dining. They would be in control of that space. It would be we would want to limit to dining only. We're not looking at moving any of the operations of the restaurant, the food preparation or beverage services serving out there. And also, things like restrooms and operating hours, music and nuisance that might create. We would need to think through that. And that would be part of the review of any applications that we receive for this program or this initiative. And then the restaurant owners themselves would be responsible for the cleanliness and appearance of any areas used for outdoor dining. The next slide, please. So those are all of the basic considerations. As I was doing the research for this, there's dozens of cities across the country and in California that are looking at this type of a program. And what I just shared with you were pretty much consistent across the board with a few little minor adaptations to a local needs. But in addition to those things, there are some other special considerations. One is that if tents or canopies are used, then that is kind of a different ballgame, and that needs to be carefully reviewed especially by the fire and the building department for safety reasons. I also discovered that ABC, the State Alcoholic Beverage Commission, they've actually instituted a temporary outdoor dining area, a special permit for that will extend the alcoholic beverage or the ABC license, an existing one, into the new area of expansion just during the time that we have the temporary outdoor seating. So we could work with the restaurant owners to apply for that type of permit. We'd also look at things like signage. Now, one area that I would hope we would be able to discuss today would be a different type of expansion, and that would include possible expansion of dining area into parking areas, which we refer to as the head-in parking that's immediately adjacent to a restaurant. That might be something that would be a longer discussion we'd have to have for another day. Obviously, the big issue there with safety is as you're mixing vehicles and passing by in close proximity to diners, we would want to make sure that there were adequate barriers in place. And because every situation would be different, those would be looked at on a case-by-case basis. I would recommend that we look first at doing it on the sidewalks where it's safe, and if there's a particular want to expand and it could be done safely in a parking area, then we could look at that. And so I'll cover the last one. So then the next slide, please. Most cities are requiring some type of an application to do this. It's a very simple online, we'd want to keep it very simple. It'd be no cost. Most cities are requiring just an online application and submittal of two things. One is a brief one-page, even a half-page description of what the restaurant proposes to do, how large the dining area would be, how many employees, that sort of thing. And then a basic diagram just illustrating where everything would be located and that the tables are have enough space to maintain the social distancing.
Thank you, Ned. I don't want to interrupt, but I want to be mindful of the chairs. Could you just go to the recommendation, please? What do you need from us?
That was the very next thing.
Thank you.
So, no, it's fine. Sorry to be a little bit long-winded. So finally for recommendation, I just wanted to let you know that we were drafting these design guidelines. If you have any thoughts on it, we'd be interested in hearing those. What we'll be doing next is coordinating among departments, maybe planning, economic development, building for ADA issues, public safety, and then if you would like, we can prepare a full a presentation for the full council. Some cities have adopted a policy by the council to cover all of these issues. And then I just had suggested, and then we will also be doing outreach to the restaurant owners to make sure that we're doing something that they're interested in that will help them.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And yes, your last recommendation is great. And if you could do a proposal to put it in front of the city council, that would be great. I have to leave it. I got 3 minutes to zoom in.
Thank you,
Thank
Chair.
you, everyone.
Appreciate your time.
And then we'll set the next meeting. I'll give you a call, Alex, and then we could go from there. But
Sounds great.
sorry, I
Thank
have to
you.
Take care, everyone.
Go
Thank
ahead
you.
and adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.